Good evening and welcome to CW Live. My name is Chris Webb, Head of Communications at the CW. Tonight we'll have a very special session for our BT consumer members as part of our overarching Count Me In campaign and the work we're doing to turn out the biggest possible yes vote and turnout in the forthcoming industrial action ballot. I'm delighted tonight to be joined by our National Officer, Stephen Alban. Good evening, Stephen.
Good evening.
And I've also got from our Telecom and Financial Services Executive, Dave T. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening.
So I can also see in the top left-hand corner of my screen that we've also almost got 1,000 people on straight away. So that's fantastic. There's obviously a feeling of anticipation amongst our consumer members for this session, which is brilliant. And as per our normal running order, really, this is about you as members. So we're going to get short statements from both Stephen and Dave, really to set a bit of a context for the session and to give you a bit of understanding where we're coming from tonight. But the primary focus of the session is on your questions and the ability for you to ask the union's most senior representatives anything you want about the campaign from a BT consumer perspective. Before I hand over to Stephen, now I want to give you some guidance, if you like, on how you can get involved. You can put your comments, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube or Twitter, please put your comments in, your questions. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know how long you've been a member of the union. And also critically, let us know what your question is, and also let us know you're supporting the Count Me In campaign and you're getting ready to vote yes and back your union in this campaign. So you, while you're piling your comments, your questions, your pledges to vote yes, I'm going to hand over to Stephen to open the session and set the scene. So over to you, Stephen.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks everybody for taking the time to come on tonight. This is another part of the crucial negotiations and the engagement we have with you. And look, I think everyone's probably up to speed with the campaign now, so I don't want to take too much of your time going through it because it's more important that we answer all the questions that you've got. But like I said previously, every aspect of this campaign impacts our members in consumer. And what I mean by that is you've seen the recent pay deal that was imposed, or the bung, as the people are calling it, and everyone's been experiencing the de-skilling and of roles within consumer around grading. And then obviously, consumers unique as well in the campaign because we're the first ones to have terms and conditions attacked with the removal of Sunday allowance and bank holiday payments for our new recruits, and that has a massive significant impact on them. And equally as well, it's unfortunate that there has been announcements of other sites in other areas, but within consumer we're still in the dark, and we will touch on it probably later because I'm sure we'll have some questions around the recent announcements on the workplace. We've had a lot of feedback from members already. Still concerned about their future. We want to touch on that. And obviously, we've already seen Aberdeen shut and the impact on that in relation to compulsory redundancy. So I don't want to go on any more than that because I think, like I say, a lot of our members should be aware of the campaign now. But what's crucial tonight, we're in the middle of a COVID crisis and engagement is difficult. This is one of many events we're having, whether to engage with you. All the local branches have been doing some fantastic work trying to engage with you by their own social media platforms and WhatsApp groups. And probably we will touch on later the things that we needed to do as well, because I think everyone who's come on tonight is interested in the campaign. I think they support the campaign. And I think we want to use that as well to try and get that message to the people who can't make it or probably don't know much about the campaign at the minute. So I'll leave it there. Because it's crucial that we get all your questions answered tonight.
Thank you, Stephen. And before I hand over to Dave, just to say, brilliant turnout so far already tonight. You can help that, though, by simply in the comment box, tagging your work colleagues, sharing the link, dropping them a text, dropping them a WhatsApp. Let's get as many members on the session tonight as we possibly can. Dave T, your opening thoughts?
Yes, Chris. I mean, last week we had a call for EE members, and it was a great turnout. It gave members in EE the opportunity to ask questions and find out about the campaign. And I noticed tonight there are EE members who've come on to the call to find out about the campaign in BT Consumer and across the union. So I think it's a great chance for members to ask the questions. And hopefully to give you the answers that you desperately want in this situation. So I think it's a good turnout by the looks of it, Chris, and hopefully we can get some of those questions answered for you tonight.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Stephen. So we're going to go straight into the questions. I suppose quite a few members are making this point already and in the questions, which is great to see, and keep as many coming as possible because you've got us here for as long as you need us tonight. But a question, I suppose, which is forthright and coming through, is people saying, does this really affect us in consumer? Is this something that only impacts on our colleagues in Openreach or elsewhere, and we're being dragged into it? So, Stephen, I'm going to put that one to you if I can.
I think it's probably what I said in the introduction. Every single aspect of this campaign has an impact on consumer, and I know in a lot of other lines of business it will impact them in the future if we don't vote yes on this ballot. So you only have to look at what's happened with the pay that's been imposed on our members within BT. And when I say imposed, it wasn't negotiated, and in some respects it's clearly not a pay deal. This is a bong, and this is because of the pressure you put members under. And I can touch on that if we have any questions on it and go into more detail. But we've seen the de-skilling of roles within consumer, where we were promised by Nick Lane that there would be a 3-tier career progression within consumer. That was stripped away, and the Camp 3 role, or as you might know them, the local case management role, was stripped away. And we know the problems that's caused for members in getting support, because managers have really struggled. And then there was really, in the middle of COVID, the beginning of COVID, the stripping away of the terms and conditions that we thought we'd agreed with the company for our lowest paid workers. And that was significant. That was over £2,662 that was stripped away from them. The bank holiday payments, the Sunday payments, and actually a new unagreed rate imposed of £18,500. And then obviously you've got the better workplaces. Now, we've seen the recent announcements on that, and we've got a lot of questions and feedback from members, and if you've got any questions specifically on that, and touch on it. And we've seen redundancy. So Chris, every single aspect of the 6 main parts of this campaign impact consumer.
Thanks, Stephen. That's fantastic. Dave, again, had planned to ask this one anyway, but perhaps a little bit later on down the session. But it's been asked by about half a dozen members straight off, so I'm going to get it in early so it pleases people. And lots of people are saying, like, fully support the union, fully on board. Where's the ballot, Dave T?
When is the ballot? Well, I was asked this question last week, Chris. I think you asked me on behalf of the members. And the question is, the executive will be meeting to make a decision on when the ballot is. I can't tell you tonight when the ballot's going to be, but as far as we're concerned, at the moment, the way negotiations are going, then it's highly likely that a ballot will be coming soon. But I can't give you a specific timetable. I wouldn't want to announce that here tonight. It would be down to the executive to agree if that was to take place. But I don't think it will be very long. I said last week, I suspect it won't be long, and I'm going to stick to that. Thanks, Chris. I can't give you much more of an answer than that, though, to be honest.
No, that's fine. I think members generally, this is an education for us all, isn't it? And one of the things I think the members have grown to understand is that the complications and the legal hurdles that the union has to jump through to get to that point
absolutely
are numerous, and I'm sure people understand that. Stephen, on the basis of dispute, obviously, the aim of the union is not to take strike action, it's to reach an agreement with the employer. But Jettel from Leicester and quite a few other members have asked this question, and we've seen, lots of rumour mongering, if you like, from management about the impact of people taking strike action. Jettel's asked, it's from Leicester, said, "Will I lose my job if I go on strike?" Stephen.
I can give you 100% assurance that you won't lose your job. It's illegal to have industrial action. I have my own experiences. When I first started in 1986, I'd been in the company only a month. I was in my probation and I came out on strike. It's totally legal. And if you do get managers creating that fear, then you need to report it to your local branch, because they shouldn't be doing it and they're not allowed to do it. And if I'm honest, I think it is only a few rogue managers, because the vast majority of managers, we believe, are behind this campaign, if I'm honest. So don't be afraid.
And can I just add to that, Chris? Because it's one of the myths that we've been trying. This is a myth that's out there, isn't it? And we've been trying to break that myth, because it's absolutely clear that if it's a lawfully conducted ballot, and we'll make sure it's lawful, won't we, Chris? That's exactly what we'll do as a union. We'll make it sure it's a lawfully conducted ballot, and on that basis, members can go out on strike without fear of losing their job. And that'll be down to us as a union to make sure things are done legally. I appreciate that when we go to a ballot, the employer will be all over us trying to challenge that ballot. We're not naive to think that, but we're going to make sure it's lawful, aren't we, Chris? That's the key.
No, absolutely, Dave. And again, as I said just previously before I put the question to you guys, I think members gaining a growing understanding of the legal loopholes the union has to go through just to be able to, take what is going to be fully lawful industrial action or a fully lawful industrial action ballot. You touched on, Stephen, the site announcement from the business. Some people in the comments I can see, been sort of almost like lulled into a false sense of security. Does this mean I'm safe now? Does this mean the dispute's over for me? No. We've seen phrases from BT used, such as the Aspire program. I mean, maybe they would be better to aspire to reach an agreement with the union that will protect members' job security. Then we wouldn't have to worry about whether they had a job or not. But Sabir here is asking, how would a BT consumer site strategy impact me? So what would your answer to Sabir and I suppose the wider question be? Stephen first, and I'm sure Dave will have something to say on that.
On the site announcement, look, these are tactics by the company. This has come through the pressure that you've put the company under in the consultative ballot and also in your involvement in the campaign that's potentially going to lead up to industrial action. They have a site closure plan. They just won't reveal it to us. We believe that sites will shut. What they've done here is, under the guise of refurbishment and the fact that they're going to kick it down the street into spring next year, is a way of saying to you that you've got job security. I think we're worried for every site, because just because you're getting a refurbishment doesn't mean that your site's safe. And for those who haven't been announced, clearly the members have already been saying to us, Chris, how worried they are because there's no commitment. We want a commitment to what the site strategy is. And once we know that, we can work with the company to find ways around it and deal with it. But they just won't do it. And we believe there's a reason for that. They're doing it because they don't want to disrupt customer service. They're going to bounce us at the last minute like they did with Aberdeen. And whatever they're doing now, I think you have to have a bit of mistrust in what the company have been saying, because they told us that no site was shutting before, and then 2 weeks later they shut Aberdeen.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave, did you want to come on the back of that one?
Well, I mean, let's be clear, Chris. The way things are going, there will be site closures. I don't think anybody should be in any doubt about that. You've only got to look at the BT's overall programme in terms of buildings, that there will be site closures. And one of the things, of course, is the redundancy terms have been heavily attacked by the company, right? And that's been, some may say that's been crucial in the way that Consumer has been looking at its site closure programme. So, and Stephen's right. A site that's safe today doesn't mean it's safe tomorrow. That's the point. You can never be absolutely certain about these things. And our job as a union is to get the company to look at alternative work for our members and not close these buildings down. And they might well move out of an area, but we want to be able to redeploy and reskill and retrain our members so that they continue to work for the company and have careers. And I'm sure Stephen will get onto the career aspect of working in BT Consumer, but that's what we want for our members. We want a future for our members. And closing sites, we have to get principles in place about how we help our members in those situations so that they still have jobs with the company.
Thank you, Dave. That's fantastic. So we've got so many questions coming in. The issue of home working, I want to cover this now. So Joseph says, why is working from home being played down now? Is this to make it easier for us to get rid of? And I wondered, again, I'm sure you might both have a view on this, the issue of home working in its entirety, is it something that CWU is looking to negotiate on? Is it a challenge for us as a union to organise in that environment? Is it something BT, are looking to continue? Is it something on the table in this dispute? General comment really on the issue of home working, Stephen.
Yeah. Well, look, we're driven by what our members want. We surveyed all of our members to ask them whether they want to continue work from home. Actually, we surveyed them twice, because second time we asked specifically. And over 60% of our members said that they wanted to work from home permanently. And then there was a mixture that wanted to work from home and in the office, and some, very small percentage, about 10%, wanted to stay at home. The company have done their own surveys, but clearly haven't listened to what our members have said. I think they're only offering an option of Smart Light and Smart Max, which in total is only about a 20% allowed to have any ability to work from home in any guise. And they haven't given us any reasons, though, why people can't. We're well aware that members have worked from home for a year. They've had training, they've had one-to-ones, they've had that support. We haven't seen any evidence that performance dropped from people working from permanently home. But the crucial part about home working for us, for the members as well, is it will help solve some of the problems if buildings do shut. Because if buildings shut our members can still have a job and work from home. So it's 100% on our agenda because our members have told us it is. And obviously it was driven by the question we asked of them. So yeah, it is top of our agenda to try and get the company to accommodate that.
I'm going to jump in, Dave, just for you comment on this one, because there's been a further addition to the home working question.
Okay.
And Jet says, do we have to go back in the office in June? What if we're happy to stay at home? Can we? And obviously, that's a feeling that's coming through as well. So it is like all this part of the overall negotiations that are taking place and you want to take place for the company?
Well, Chris, I think the June comment refers to something that Mark O'Leary said, and he announced a date of June. That was news to me and Stephen, to be honest, and the rest of the team. And we will be in discussions with the company about their return to work. Look, in terms of home working or smart working or whatever version of working you want to call it. The company at the beginning of the pandemic were really reluctant, as far as we were concerned, to move to home working. And in fact, they told us it was actually impossible, I think. And it was only a few weeks later, after pressure from us, that we got the home working, got members at home and working. And as Stephen said, it works. Home working works permanently, flexibly, but home working most definitely works. And the issue of members coming back in June is something we're aware of the comments that have been made. We've spoken to Industrial Relations about it, and I think Stephen could probably elaborate on that, to be honest.
Yes, well, obviously, we've had regular weekly COVID meetings. We demanded COVID meetings with the company from the very beginning of the pandemic, and as Dave said, we were instrumental in getting people home. We have another meeting planned with them coming up because we've made it very, very clear to them as soon as they plan to get people to return to work, we need to be part of that conversation. And to be honest, we're going to be guided by the government guidelines. Nobody's coming back into our buildings if it's not in line with that and they're safe. But I think crucially for us, though, we want to pursue and continue that conversation around home working because it's what our members have asked for. So it is on our agenda, and please be assured that it's not us they're not allowing it, it's the company.
Thanks, Stephen. Well, I'm going to... First of all, great numbers tonight, everyone. Really pleasing. Keep coming on. Keep tagging your colleagues, sharing the link, getting it out via WhatsApp, text, anything you can do whilst staying on the session and watching with us. I'm going to start, because we've got quite a few questions, asking you like one each now and see if we can sort of rattle through a few. We've got some really, really good ones. I'm going to come to you first, Dave. And this issue of Martin Bolt's race, Jansen will do what he likes. He's not even worried about Ofcom, seeing as he bends rules to get his mate's service done at the click of his fingers. There's a few comments of that ilk, but I think it's more the overall feeling of, can we really do anything about this as members? And I suppose, the obvious answers is, they said they wouldn't negotiate with the union, and the Consultative Ballot got them back in the room. The pressure we've been able to apply in that intervening period of negotiations has gone on. So we're asking now for more pressure, more leverage from the members. But if someone's feeling helpless, Big T are big, multi-billion-pound company, and we're individual working people. What would you say in terms of confidence building, Dave, for those people?
Well, I think the pressure is beginning to work, Chris. I think the pressure is beginning to work, and we've noticed it certainly, and myself and Stephen, in dealing with the company, that we feel the pressure is beginning to work. But there are some really critical issues that need to be resolved. That's going to need extra pressure and support from the membership. So we certainly intend to move to an industrial action ballot, and that is about putting the company under pressure and getting them to move. There have been talks, and there are negotiations, and there is small progress being made, but we do need to make more progress. So as they say, we're on a journey here, Chris, and we've got to keep on putting the pressure and keep applying it, because we as a trade union know that's the only way to deliver in a situation like this. There are so many things that face us, so many challenges that we face, that it's absolutely vital that the members understand that pressure works, momentum, and the build-up of pressure most definitely does work. And you've got to, you have to understand that there are negotiations going on, and we want the negotiators to be fully aware that the members are behind them when they're negotiating. And BT are in no doubt, absolutely no doubt, that our members are behind us, because it does change the way and our ability to negotiate.
Thanks, Dave. That's brilliant. I'm going to jump in and put one to Stephen. Mark has made the point about the bonus. I want to come on to that area of discussion. Mark says it's not a bonus, it's a bung. Nothing on your pension. It's about the race to the bottom and the opportunity to make cheaper labour and move work abroad. Something I know, we've consistently made those points. We appreciate that Mark's making them for us in the comments tonight, advocating for the union. But what would you say, Stephen, to members who might look at that and go, well, actually, my circumstances mean that money is quite attractive, and I'm happy to take that and maybe not get involved in the dispute. What would you say to that group of members?
Look, we to be clear, actually, we think you should have it. We think you should have that £1,000. That bonus should have been paid to you anyway for all the work and the risk you took during COVID to keep the company connected. But it's not a pay rise, is it? It's not a pay rise. When you take the tax, the tax, the national insurance off it, it's closer to £600 than £1,000 anyway. But it's not a standard of living pay rise. BT put their bills up, all your bills go up. If your pay doesn't go up, you stand still and you go further and further down. And equally as well, that £1,000 had a massive impact on some of our members, because it's a sad reflection of BT and the race to the bottom that some of our members, especially those with single parents, are on universal credit, and the impact of getting that money messed around their bonuses. But the important part of it as well is, they made a big play of giving you this £1,000, but they actually cut the lowest paid workers within consumers' salary by in the region of £2,662, because they imposed the unagreed pay grade of £18,500, stripped away all the allowances for bank holidays and Sundays. So actually, gave you this bonus that you thoroughly deserved and you will get, we believe you should get, but actually took it away, took in 3 times as much away with the other hand. So, it's, for me, it's crucial that members get behind that, because this is just the start of it. The race to the bottom isn't even, I believe, where they have the salary now. I think they want to be lower than that.
Thanks, Steve. Dave, I mean, what's great about seeing the comments in real time is, as you yourself and Stephen are speaking, you can clearly see the members get the arguments, and the union's message is cutting through. So, for example, Joseph here says, can't we push the fact that with no pay rises, effectively a pay cut? Which is absolutely true, isn't it? And what the union has been saying, led by Andy Kerr consistently since that announcement, is, yeah, that's fine. That's recognition of the work our members have done during this period, but where's our pay rise? That's the position, isn't it?
And it doesn't protect your standard of living. That's the point. It doesn't keep pace with bills, does it? And if you didn't get a pay rise this year, and we are negotiating to get a pay rise because we believe you deserve a pay rise that protects your pay. But just remember, next year, if you got no pay rise, you're in exactly the same place. You haven't moved, you haven't budged. Okay, you might have got your £1,000 less tax and NI, but your actual standard of living hasn't improved. And it doesn't flow. It means your overtime will be paid at the old rate. Your pensions will be based on the old rate. So there is no improvement at all. £1,000 or after tax and NI, £600, as Stephen said, absolutely, you deserve it. But to be clear, and I said this last week, there's another myth going around that we're trying to block it, and that is absolutely untrue. That's absolutely untrue. We think you deserve the money, but more importantly, as a trade union, we want to protect your pay. That's what we're trying to do with the pay rise.
Thank you, Dave. Time for the adverts again. Please keep liking, please keep sharing, please keep tagging, keep your questions coming in. This is your session. We want to give you the opportunity to put as many questions as possible to Stephen and Dave. Mr. Hardcore Justice says, the new bonus scheme is affecting me nearly £1,000 worse off each month. I need to return to home working to save on travel costs. Stephen, I'm going to come to you. Just basically wrapping around, there's quite a few questions around a new bonus scheme. So what would your comments on that be?
It's difficult to check which bonus scheme it is. So just to give you some history, we're currently in talks with consumer sales around a bonus. That hasn't been concluded, and we're still waiting for information from the company around that. We surveyed members, if they remember rightly, on their bonus in BT and EE, and got a lot of questions and queries around the new bonus scheme that have been briefed to them. We've negotiated with the company what we believe is an agreement that answers the vast majority of those questions. There is a lot of stuff that's been brought back into their control as well. And what we have done as well is try to bring in an appeal process. But everything within that negotiation was driven by what members were asking us in the bonus scheme. So if people believe they're being disadvantaged, we have reviews built in. If they can demonstrate to us, because the examples we've had through were that people were, in the main, majority of people were achieving a bonus. But if people are saying that they're being massively disadvantaged and there's something in there that we've missed, then we'll happily speak to members on that and take it up at the reviews that we have. But everything in that bonus in consumer service was driven by what members were asking us to do.
Thank you, Stephen. Dave, I'm going to come to you and Stephen, give you the opportunity to come on this one because it's a big issue. Ellen's asked, once we vote, how long will it take for the strike to happen? So I suppose the simplest possible answer is, if and when we get that yes vote, 14 days later after that date, we can take industrial action. I suppose the more complicated question I want to put to you is, obviously, we would hope that, in the event of a thumping yes vote, that BT might wake up and get serious about discussions. So in some ways, Dave, I suppose, is it how long's a piece of string in some ways, but what would your feeling as an executive member be, and then Stephen as an officer, about where we would be at that point?
So Chris, this is your famous piece of string that you talked to me about last week. Absolutely, Chris. The key for us is we don't want to go to an industrial action. We don't want to take industrial action. However, right? It's I suppose they call it a weapon of last resort, and we don't want to do that because we want to negotiate with the company because but we will take a strike action if we have to. So you're right. There will be a legal period that we have to comply with after notifying the employer that we've got a thumping yes vote, as you put it, Chris. So we are legally obliged to do that, and there's a legal period, and then, as you say, hopefully we'll negotiate with BT and we'll come to a negotiated solution. But you have to, in all of these things, you can't in advance say what that time period is going to be. But we're clearly not going to leave it too long, because the longer you leave it, the tougher it becomes in terms of losing the pace of a dispute. So, as you say, there's a legal time limit. We'll be in negotiations with the discussions with the company, and I would say watch this space. But you keep asking me this question about this piece of string, Chris, and it's a bit tricky.
I want you to one day tell me exactly how long that piece of string is, Dave. That's why. Stephen, on the issue of industrial action.
Well, no, look, I think Dave's answered it the best he can. Look, at the end of the day, you'll be the first to know as soon as all the other things have been resolved. Negotiations are ongoing, but, the way things are at the minute, we need members to be focused on the ballot, because even if, getting a yes vote in that ballot will put us in a better position with those negotiations. So please just vote yes for us. But like I said, as soon as this is going to happen, you'll be the first to know. And I suppose it comes back to Dave's analogy. It's a piece of string, and it may be a bit shorter than what it was. Thank you,
Stephen. Our colleague, Mr. Hardcore Justice, great name, by the way, YouTube name. He says he can only speak on the side of retentions. Majority of advisors are getting 50% of their average commission. Advisors are finding loopholes to get time offline just to get contingency instead. So what I would ask, Stephen, is that something we'll take away offline from the session, and we'll sort of get back to members?
Yeah, we have had some queries on I'm assuming retentions, that's sales. So we have had some queries on the fact that the new bonus scheme that they want to introduce is going to take away contingency for offline time. But there are actually reductions in targets that have been implemented to counteract that. We are getting some worked examples. We hope to have them out to members very soon.
Thank you, mate.
Sorry, Chris. I was going to say, as a union, it's our job to try and make sales targets and achievable, because we don't want our members turning up and failing to benefit from the products they're selling for the company, do we, Stephen? That's certainly not a point. So if there is an issue out there, I have to say that if there are issues with bonuses, the members are very quick to tell us, aren't they, Stephen? They don't hold back, and they tell us very quickly. So we'll be all over this, absolutely.
Okay, so another regular question. So Natalie is saying, how will the striking be done with COVID restrictions? Are we expected to attend our office to a place of work? We're working from home currently. So, first of all, no one's expected to attend any picket line. That's an individual decision. You can just take a day off if you want to. So no, but also we've got another one. If social distancing allow, are we allowed to make a physical presence on the picket line? You'd have seen, our RPE members are doing that now. But I think one of the obviously things that I want to put to you guys, starting with yourself, Stephen, is that some of this, and it includes the campaign for the yes vote and potentially subsequent strike action, will be determined on where we are with COVID restrictions. So, for example, we may be able to hold big membership meetings in a few weeks. We may be able to hold picket line. So, is it a case of we have to look at the timeline of the government lifting restrictions and take advantage and campaign on that basis?
I think 100%, yeah. But we have to be very, very clear. We've had the moral high ground all the way through COVID. We have to stick to the government guidelines. We can't deviate from that. But, I think you're exactly right, Chris. It's been difficult to run a campaign. And this is why we're having so many events and different ways to engage with you. But there's no better engagement than face-to-face. So once we come out of the COVID restrictions, as long as we know it's safe, then that's something we would want to do. Because I know, you've got a lot of questions. You're on Facebook, Facebook Live, and your question might not be got to. I think when you're face to face, then you get a much better opportunity for us to engage one-on-one and reassure you about what we're trying to achieve and deliver the yes vote. Thanks,
Stephen. And Dave, give you a chance to comment on that, and also pick up on a comment from Carl who says the RPEs have led the way. So, and I think that's, a good example there. We know that physical picket lines can take place. We know that confidence can build as industrial action builds, and we know that solidarity works, don't we?
I think from our point of view as a union, we're not going to break the law. That's the key. So we're not going to break COVID regulations if there are any in place. So we're not going to do that. Equally, if we ask our members to go out and strike, we won't be asking them to break the law either. But I think the more we can get members together, be that socially distanced or not, absolutely, the more we can build up a confidence, and the numbers of members out there, the more we can do that, absolutely the better.
Thanks, Dave. I'm going to ask Stephen now a question now on how you as members can get involved in the campaign, because obviously, as both of our speakers tonight have pointed out, the union hasn't got its natural strength at this point of just getting in the workplace, gathering you together, having whether that's during work time, during your break, after work or whatever, and having a really big face-to-face meeting. So that is, it makes it really difficult. But we found some, really innovative ways around that. But I'm going to ask Stephen how you as members can get involved in the campaign, can help us get that vote out. Whilst I'm doing that, you let us know if you're back in the union simply by putting "I'm voting yes" in the comments, and we'll share as many of those as we possibly can. So just simply "I'm voting yes" in the comments now. And Stephen, how can a member who's willing, able, and really up for getting involved back the union at this point?
Yeah, we've been I think this is really, really crucial, because obviously we've tried every single way we can to engage with you via different events and what have you. But I think there's nothing better than peer-to-peer conversations. We know there's strong people in the team that people look up to and will listen to. We know that you can get the message out locally and check whether your friends have read it, and pass us back of any queries you've got, so we can answer them for those people who are struggling to understand it. So everyone on this call who's come on tonight, I believe, is somebody who's with the campaign and is interested in the campaign. And I think if you could contact your local branch and commit just to passing information out, just to making sure it's read, just to get feedback from members and make sure that we're doing the right things, or there's more stuff they want answering. If you could do that, then I think that would make a massive, massive impact to the campaign and getting a yes vote delivered. So it's a massive ask, and all we're asking for is you to contact the branch, leave your details, join the WhatsApp groups, pass the messages out for us, and really have conversations with your colleagues and let them know how crucial this is. Because I think myself and Dave and Chris have really laid out what's at stake here. And it really worries me if we didn't get a yes vote, because if we didn't get a yes vote, I dread to think where this company will end up and where your terms and conditions and what impact that's going to have on you.
Well, fantastic to see the dozens and dozens of you piling in into the hundreds now with your "I'm voting yes" pledges, and we'll continue to share them as Dave answers the next question. My next question, Dave, is obviously you, like Stephen, like all of the executive and officers and All of our branches have done a fantastic job. I've been out there doing lots and lots of meetings with members, most of them obviously on a virtual basis. What has the feedback from our members been? Do you believe our members are behind the union in this campaign?
I mean, I've spoken to lots and lots of members over the past few weeks, and I think we've got to the stage, Chris, where I think every single member of this union working for BT, EE, and Openreach knows about the campaign and knows about the dispute. The next part of this sort of progress is to get members, as we were talking before, talking to other members, actually challenging managers about some of the things that they're saying, and showing confidence to other members that actually you can have your say in BT and Openreach and EE. You can have your say. I mean, clearly you have to do it in the right way, but you can definitely have your say and because BT needs to know and Openreach and EE need to know from every single direction that our members are backing us and understand. So I think it's vitally important that that members talk to other members, but also challenge managers about what's going on. Challenge them about the site strategy, whether their sites are safe. But ultimately, Chris, I think it's I don't think it will be long at this rate with the support we're getting that we'll be moving towards a ballot, because I think it's key, because the company knows we're coming for them, Chris.
One of the issues, thank you, Dave. One of the issues I want to touch on is, and some members will know this because they've read our briefs, watched our sessions, etc., but some may not, is in 2016, the Conservative government changed the law to make to ensure that any strike ballot that took place had to have a minimum of 50% of those involved in the ballot voting for it to be legal. So, we could achieve a 99.9% yes vote, but if only 49.9% of members voted, the government would rule that strike as illegal. To give you some context, there's only one union that's held on one big national strike ballot, and that's the CWU. In that time, with our colleagues in Royal Mail Group, and we won 3 of those ballots, which was fantastic. But lots of unions have not done that, and the threshold has been it's laughable. I mean, these same MPs who were elected on tiny majorities judging that working people can't take industrial action because of some made-up threshold. But I wanted to come to both of you, really, and Stephen, and just how important. I mean, obviously, we want people to vote yes, and we believe that. We've set it out so conclusively that why wouldn't people vote yes? But just how important, Stephen first, is it that people actually use their vote in this ballot?
It's crucial. I think everything we've said tonight is about, especially within consumer, is about the race to the bottom. And if you don't vote yes, then I think we're in a serious trouble. The company are testing us, right? This isn't their full plans. They've got massive plans of racing to the bottom, but they're testing us, aren't they? They're imposing unagreed terms and conditions. They're stripping away and de-skilling you, asking you to do so much more, like best of both, but not paying you for it. All these things, redundancies, not telling, your future in the site close, all these things they're doing are just the initial test. And if you don't show strength now, then it's just open book for absolutely everything. And even those members in consumer who haven't had their terms and conditions impacted, you will be next because you haven't stood up and fought. It's a test by the company, and we can't allow the company to get away from it. We have to vote yes. If we don't vote yes, then everything's up for grabs. And again, I've seen it in EE because I've recruited in EE for many, many years. I've seen them strip away that company where, unfortunately, they have raced to the bottom, and we want to get them back up. And that's where we'll all end up if we don't vote yes. We'll ruin what we've got in BT Consumer, and it won't enable us in EE to bring them up to what they deserve, because we know the value of you. We know what you're worth. And the only way we're going to get that is if you all vote yes.
Thank you, Stephen. Dave, your view on the importance of people when they get that ballot paper using their vote?
Oh, I mean, it's massively important because it demonstrates to BT, Openreach and EE that the members are supporting us. It's absolutely vital, because using your vote shows that you're strong and that you believe in the campaign that we're running and the aims of our campaign. It means that you believe us and you back us. So using your vote is critical, because if you don't use your vote, the company will think that the union doesn't represent you and that we're weak. We know that's not true, right? You know that's not true. So I have no doubts that we will get a yes vote. I'm absolutely convinced we'll get a yes vote, and we'll demonstrate out to the company. But not using your not voting would actually show to the company that that we're weak, and we're not a weak union, Chris. Far from it.
Thank you, Dave. Stephen, good question from Sharon. She's asking, is the union considering any more media pressure on the current campaign, given the pressure is key to get the company to negotiate? And obviously, at the minute, what would be a disaster is if we focused everything on the media or everything on political, for example, and didn't deliver the ballot. Our number one focus at this point to be able to gain the media coverage is to win the ballot, because that's what's going to get us the top media coverage. But what other communication plans have we got ready for the members? What else are they going to see from us in the coming weeks leading up to and including a ballot, Stephen?
Yeah, I think just to say, Sharon, the difficulty with the media is a lot of the media is owned by, the right wing. And, for us to get media coverage is very, very rare. The focus for us is, speaking to you, engaging with you engaging with your colleagues to convince everybody of the need to do it. We'll have more Facebook Lives planned. Like Chris has just said previously, when we come out of COVID, we would love to be engaging with you face to face. We have lots of social media memes that we put out within Consumer that help explain, especially to the young members, the consequences and the things that have been happening, how much it means to them in pound, shilling and pence. We want as many people to become advocates as well, so that we can get that information out and share it. I'm sure Chris could tell me a lot more, because Chris is the whiz for the communications, and he has a very, very thorough plan to make sure that we get to as many people as possible. And I think if we do come out of COVID, I'd imagine that plan will develop as well. So we're doing everything in our power to try and get to every single member. I think Dave said it on his last contribution. I'm 100% confident as well that everyone knows what the campaign's about and why we need to vote yes. But we don't want to be complacent, and we'll be campaigning and doing as much as we possibly can up to the very last minute to ensure that we get that yes vote.
Thanks, Stephen. Dave, really like this point from Bill Kendall. Bill says there are costs to action, but there are far less than the long-range losses of comfortable inaction. And it goes back to that point of people saying, I can't afford to vote yes, I can't afford to take strike action, when actually should the question be, you can't afford not to do those things, Dave?
I mean, can members afford not to have a pay rise year after year? Can they afford just to have a bung every year? I would say they can't, Chris. And this union has negotiated years and years of decent pay rises, and we intend to do that now and in the future. And that's just one of those things. Can they afford to be made redundant on poor redundancy conditions? Can they? And there's so many. Can they afford? In many ways, Chris, Bill has answered the question, hasn't he? In many ways, we can't afford not to have a ballot, and we can't afford, if that's a yes ballot, we can't afford not to negotiate with the employer, and we can't afford not to go on strike if we have to, because fundamentally we'll be saying to members, the only way to protect your future, and we protect your future being your actual job or your career within the company and getting a decent rate of pay for the work you do. To protect that, you may lose, you may have to go on strike, and you may have to lose some money to do it. But the long-term gain, the long-term benefit would far outweigh the losses.
Thank you. Last few questions now. Stephen, Mark's made a good point here. Why is nothing being done about a British company like BT cutting jobs in the UK and moving cheap labour abroad? Why has the government not done anything about this? I mean, obviously, anyone who knows their political history will say we've got a Conservative government. This is just what they do. This is the environment that they allow to breed with privatised companies, pushing jobs offshore. But in our comms package, obviously, we're going to look to highlight this, but I suppose it gives us the opportunity to just point out how outrageous this is. I mean, key workers who have kept this country connected, kept this country online, being treated like that, and being, a multi-billion-pound company like BT, be opportunist and moving jobs abroad. This is an absolute outrage, isn't it?
Well, no, it's 100% it is, because these are our key workers who kept this country connected all the way through the pandemic. Putting their lives at risk at time in the early stages when it was we had some difficulties with the company trying to get people home. But I think the UK public should stand up and look as well, because a lot of the government investment that's come into BT for for the network and things like that. I think it's absolutely disgraceful that then the offshore work abroad. It's absolutely disgusting. So yeah, no, so it's 100%. It's a very, very good point, and we need to get that out there to our members and actually to the public as well.
Thank you, Stephen. Dave, I'm going to come to the point. I mean, again, all the caveats of, the union is seeking an agreement here, isn't seeking industrial action. And I think we have to keep reiterating that to our members. But John makes, a fair point. Sadly, there are members who will not be able to pay their rent or feed their children during a strike. Can they be supportive? I mean, something that the union doesn't do by sort of default is pay strike pay. Firstly, it would bankrupt the union within a matter of a week. That's going to be no good, obviously, for our members' representation. And the other thing about strike pay is there's a definite argument out there when a company knows that workers are being paid to go on strike, does that lessen the message you're sending the company? But we will have, as John rightly points out here, some members in desperate positions. Can the union do anything for those members if we reach that point?
Look, Chris. Look, we understand there are members who would be in position where financially, I mean, look. I mean, I said last week the CEO of BT doesn't worry about what he's getting paid. He doesn't worry about goes to sleep at night worrying about the bills. And then, frankly, some of our members do, because the levels of pay are, rarely, barely above the real living wage. So we do understand that. And it is something we would have to look at the time. We have to understand that some members cannot afford it. But as a union, of course, we would do whatever we can to support them. But I can't make a decision tonight, clearly, because that would be down to the executive and the union to make any decisions like that. But we're fully aware, and we don't want to, we don't want members to suffer, certainly not in the long term. And we appreciate that some members would find it incredibly difficult to do. But we, in any form of action we take, and to reiterate, we don't want to take action, but in any form of action we take, we would definitely be cognizant of that, Chris.
Thank you,
Chris.
Dave.
Can I just add to that?
You can, but I want to put a question in with it if I can, because it's going to be your last question, Stephen, and I want to keep the order. So yes, definitely follow up on that, but also I want to ask you about Careers Week. So I don't know if we've all rolled back to when we were leaving school and we're getting advice on our careers, but many of our members would say, quite like the job and quite like the career I've got, thanks BT. I don't really want another one. So yes, definitely come in on that one, Stephen, and then touch on the point raised by a few members around Careers Week, if that's okay, mate.
Yeah, no problem. The other thing I would just add to what Dave says, I think the best way to avoid coming out on strike is to vote yes, right? BT have massive service level agreements within Openreach, and the cost of our members coming out across the piece would have a significant impact on them. So I think you're right. If we do have to do it, we have to do it. But the best way to avoid industrial action would probably be to vote yes, because it would put the company under massive pressure financially from the city and from its shareholders. So, I just want to add to that. In relation to Careers Week, there's a theme here, isn't there, in everything that's happening. The pressure you're putting the company under is massive. So that £1,000 on pay, that was through your pressure. They didn't want to do it. They did it because of your pressure. We touched on earlier the site announcement with the company. That was your pressure. They did it as delay tactics. I think they would have wanted to shut a number of buildings this year, but because of the pressure, they've had to delay it. And I think you see through that. And then when it comes to Careers Week, we know they've stripped all the grading away within consumer, and the career progression that we were promised by Nick Lane that I mentioned earlier isn't there. So this Career Week, I think our members can see through it, because the only career within consumer, and they've alluded to it, is in management role. But within a management role, the vast majority of managers are covering that had a promotion prospects are covering managers, some of them for 8 or 9 years. And what he also says is, we've got a lot of people going to Openreach. So you might want to, and great if you want to go to Openreach, but there is no career within consumer if you want to progress within the new good grades, because all the roles are being stripped away. But it's just a theme, isn't it? It's another tactic that they've come out with, because they know in this campaign, you're angry about pay, you're angry about your site security, and you're angry about the fact that you're not graded and valued and paid what you should be. So all these are just tactics that they're doing. I know you can see through it. We know you're not fooled by it. And actually, in my opinion, it's quite pathetic, the tactics that they're using.
Thank you, Stephen. That's fantastic. I'm now going to give both Dave and Stephen a chance to get their final critical messages across to you. Once they give them a second to think about what those messages might be, we know that from previous history, from comments, etc., right across our employers, whether it be Royal Mail, Parcelforce, BTE, Openreach, we have some of our managerial friends who like to stray onto the session and watch. So you now have the opportunity to politely send them a message. If you're with your union and you want to send a real polite message to management here tonight, just simply put "I'm with my union" in the comments. So that's what we need. "I'm with my union" in the comments, and we'll share as many of those on screen in the last few moments of this session as we possibly can. Just as you're doing that, though, I'm going to give Dave T a chance to put across any final points that he wants to. Dave.
Well, I mean, I think the key tonight, and with all these calls, is to show the level of support we're getting out there. The company is clearly worried about the amount of support we're getting. We're clearly getting traction now, and after this call, we want members to go out there and continue to push the campaign, to continue to put the pressure on, because it's beginning to work. And we might have to go to a ballot, and if we do go to a ballot, it will be a thumping yes vote. And I think BT should, if they're watching this, they should be in no doubts that we're going to go for. If we go for a ballot, we'll get a huge yes vote, and they should be in no doubts, because we're a confident union, and as I said, we're coming for BT. So if they don't talk to us, if they don't negotiate with us sensibly, and I'm sorry, Chris, we'll be going to an industrial action ballot, and if needs be, we're going for strike action, and they should be in no doubts about that.
Thank you, Dave. Fantastic, Stephen. You, as obviously you had the luxury there, I'm sure of, as Dave was making his final comments, being able to see all of the members saying that they're with their union, and we've got loads put up as you speak. Your final messages tonight, Stephen.
Look, a huge thank you to everyone who's come on the call. A huge thank you to all your branches out there who have been working tirelessly to engage with you, and all the work that's been done to try and get the message across. We can't rest on our laurels. We have to continue that work. We are the union. We're individuals who you elect to represent you on your behalf, but you are the union as well. So we all have a role to play. So like I said earlier, we would really, really welcome everyone joining in and helping us get that message across, because Dave's exactly right. Your pressure is working. What's happened with pay is because of your pressure. Them announcing that site strategy is your pressure. The panicking on Careers Week is your pressure. So it shows what you can do by joining in with this campaign. But if we get a yes vote, imagine how much more we can do. And like I said earlier, because the consequences of not are not worth thinking about. I can tell you, they're not worth thinking about. So thank you very much for your time. We really, really appreciate it. There'll be lots more events like this. So apologies if we keep bombarding you, but we want to fight on your behalf to make sure that we get a yes vote, and to make sure that we move BT's position and sit round the table like they have in the past and deal with these issues in a professional way.
Thank you, Stephen. So first of all, tonight we want to say thank you to both Stephen and Dave. It's not the easiest thing to come on with zero prep and take all of your questions. I'm sure everyone would agree you've done a great job. We've had over 4,000 people join us across all of our channels for the session tonight, so that's really, really good. But, it's a little bit like the iPlayer. You can watch it on catch up later on. We'll share the links. You can get them out as far and wide as we possibly can. So thank you, Dave. Thank you, Stephen. Most of all from us, though, from all three of us, we'd want to thank you, as Stephen said, everyone who's taken the time to come in and tune into this session tonight. Please keep coming on. Please keep speaking to your friends in your office. Please keep speaking to your local union rep and your local branch. The ballot is coming, and when it does arrive at your doormat, get ready to vote. Get ready to vote yes. Count me in, everybody. Good night.